All right, the time is now 5:05. I would like to officially start our meeting. And good evening, everyone. My name is Ayabami Bell-Torrance. I am the Outreach Manager for DDOT. I want to welcome you all for joining us to tonight's community input meeting, especially those joining us for the first time. And before I go any further, I would like to turn it over to our Executive Director of Transit for opening remarks. Mr. Kramer.
Thank you, Ayabami, and good evening, everyone. Welcome to our monthly community input meeting. Appreciate everyone, as always, taking the time out of their busy days to tune in, and look forward to hearing any questions or comments after some of the items we're going to share this evening. And also looking ahead to November, our plan is to have
You were muted.
Oh, did I stop in the middle of muting?
All of us, you said plan to have in November and it cut out.
Yeah, okay, plan to have in November as part of some possible January service adjustments. But otherwise, just grateful for the feedback and input, and also really appreciate the team. A lot of them you see here on the Zoom screen, the Zoom grid here, but also for all of the DDOT employees that work hard every day to get our service out on the road and move people around. So with that, I'll turn it back over to Ayabami.
Awesome, thank you. And that means it's time now for our meeting rules, which are pretty simple. No personal attacks or foul language will be tolerated. That's verbally or in the chat when that's open. We do ask that you please respect the time limit of 2 minutes. That's during our public comment time, as you may be muted for going over. Let me give an opportunity for our screen to pull up. But by participating in this meeting, you are granting permission for your name, image, likeness, as well as audio and video recordings to be used by DDOT. During the public comment period, please use the raise hand feature to be called upon to speak. Of course, if you are using the dial-in only phone option, just enter *9, and that will serve as the raise hand feature to request to speak or ask a question. You'll be able to submit questions or comments to DDOT staff in the chat. Again, that will be during the public comment period. Now, before asking a question or commenting, please be sure to unmute your audio. Please state your name or the organization that you're representing. And also, following your comments, please mute your audio. All right, we're going to start with some exciting news. It was an exciting day at Rosa Parks yesterday. DDOT officially unveiled a mural of civil rights icon Rosa Parks on Wednesday. The mural was created by Detroit artist Felly. Now, the Rosa Parks niece and grandniece were among those in attendance at the event. So if you haven't got a chance to see this beautiful mural in person, we encourage you to head on down to the Rosa Parks Transit Center. And in honoring a civil rights icon, it's also important to, help you with voting. So DDOT is making sure Detroiters have an opportunity to vote on Election Day by providing free rides. Now, this means that all bus rides will be free. That's on Tuesday, November 4th. And for your awareness, polls will be open from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. And then that image that you see there regarding the free rides, those will be on our buses coming soon. Turning to Detroit Marathon reroutes and how that affects you. The annual Detroit Free Press Marathon will take place this Sunday, that's October 19th. We do want to remind passengers that beginning Saturday, which is October 18th, there will be significant detours downtown. Please visit our website for the complete list of related reroutes and detours. Now that brings us to the potential January service changes that we've mentioned at the beginning. DDOT will host a hybrid public hearing meeting that's going to be on Thursday, November 20th, and that's to present the proposed January 2026 service changes and accept comments regarding those proposed changes. For routes that currently operate on a uniform daytime frequency, that's morning peak through midday and afternoon peak, DDOT is proposing an incremental reduction in midday frequency between 9 a.m. and 2 p.m. And that's the approximate time at this point. Now, the potential routes for the midday frequency reductions are, and I'm going to go ahead and list it for those who may not be seeing the image. That's 1 Verner, which will be from 30 minutes to 45 minutes. The 3 Grand River, 10 minutes to 12 minutes. 6 Gratiot, 15 to 20 minutes. 7 Mile from 15 minutes to 20 minutes. The 9 Jefferson from 10 minutes to 12 minutes. The 10 Greenfield, 15 minutes to 20 minutes. 16 Dexter from 15 minutes to 20 minutes. The 17 8 Mile, 20 minutes to 25 minutes. And 32 McNichols, 30 to 35 minutes. Now, of course, please note that these proposed midday frequency reductions are intended to provide for a better transition to afternoon peak service where there are no spare buses available. We also want to point out that DDOT is also considering reversing the June 2025 routing change to 16 Dexter in the vicinity of the University of Detroit Mercy. Now, the current routing via Livernois, Puritan, Belden would be replaced with the previous routing, which is via Livernois, McNichols, Fairfield, Puritan, and Belden. Now, of course, before deciding, DDOT will consider public input as well as the results of a before and after segment ridership study and a safety evaluation that are underway. And that leads me to our upcoming meeting. So if you aren't aware, the next virtual local advisory council meeting will take place Tuesday, November 18th at 10 a.m. And for the public hearing that we just mentioned, the hybrid public hearing will take place Thursday, November 20th at 5 p.m. Again, that will be hybrid, so it'll be virtual and in person at Rosa Parks Transit Center. And I also want to point out that we will still, following the formal part of the hearing, we'll still have our community input meeting. That is all the updates I have at this time. Of course, we encourage you to visit our website for the latest information and more details. That's detroitmi.gov/DDOT. And follow us on social media, Instagram, Facebook, and X at RideDDOT. I'm going to turn it over to my colleague, Christian, to call our first person. And as always, we just ask that you give us a minute so that we can get the timer up as well. Okay, I'm all set on my.
Okay, great. The first hand up is a number ending in 169.
Hello, can you guys hear me?
Oh, there, we can hear you now. Go right ahead.
Great. I just want to say, in God's name, stop gaslighting Cunningham, stop gaslighting Cunningham, stop gaslighting Cunningham. In Jesus' name, thank you for my time.
I think you're muted, Christian. Well, you are muted.
Apologize. I'm having issues with the new Zoom layout. The next hand up is Jamie Jr. Whoops.
Hello. Can you hear
Okay,
me?
there we can. Thank you. Go ahead.
Okay, thank you so much. The first thing that I would like to say is thank you all for all your work. I know that you guys are working hard. I would like to ask about the rules. Well, no. I would like to ask if the ramp usage is calculated in the route times. I'm planning the bus schedule. Do you include ramp deployment? And also, I would like to report that the school craft bus is consistently late. My son uses the bus to go to work, and he's late almost every other day because either the bus didn't show up on time or he gets right within like maybe 3 foot of the bus stop and they leave him. And I think that definitely causes a hardship. But if someone could answer my question regarding the ramp usage and the plotting of the schedule for the buses, that would be helpful.
Well, I can talk about the ramp usage, and when we write the schedules, we don't know on a particular trip how many times the ramp is going to deploy, if at all. So all we can do is look at average travel times. And if there happens to be a trip where there are many, many ramp deployments, that bus might be late, but we can't predict when that happens. So all we can do is look at the average ramp use and the average travel times, including ramp use.
Okay, so you do calculate some ramp
We don't
use.
calculate. I mean, we calculate how long it takes from the bus to get from A to B, and that would include any ramp time, if any. But we don't say, well, Sally gets on the 6 o'clock bus, and then Mary gets on the 10 o'clock bus. We don't know that. We can't predict that.
All right, I understand that. I guess I'm thinking about when you look at the schedule. Like I can take it from myself and my son. I would have to use the ramp, and he does not. If he's late for work, suppose he looks at the person getting on the bus using the ramp as a burden. I think that's unfair for the public. I think that maybe since there's 2 wheelchair spaces, maybe you add the ramp time for 2 spaces into the scheduled time. That way, when the bus is late, people don't automatically assume it's because people have to use the ramp because that causes.
Yeah, all of our schedules do have some slack time in them, and there's other things that make the bus get slower, including passenger loads and and just people who are who happen to get on slower or get off slower. So and traffic conditions, of course, and construction. So we can't predict. We can only look at what happens overall. And yes, we do have some slack time in the schedule to allow for some things to slow the bus down along the way.
Okay, thank you for that answer. And then if you could clarify the rules for the bus, if the bus sees someone coming to the bus stop, are they supposed to leave?
What is the person waving at the bus? Is the person
Yeah, waving and running towards the bus.
okay? If well, I guess it would depend if they can see it. I mean, sometimes people might be across the street. They might be down. They might be behind the bus. I don't know if the bus driver can see that. Is there someone from operations who might be able to tell us if there's a rule about this?
I would say just my 2 cents, and then certainly if anyone else wants to chime in, we certainly train the drivers to be on the lookout for people that are trying to get on the bus, and really, and I don't like this part of the answer, but it is really important. Is we ask if anyone feels that they have been passed up, report it every time, because not to say that we don't believe you, but every time it gets flagged, if you call in and say, hey, on this day and this time and this location, I was trying to get on the bus, the driver passed us by, we can pull the video, we can talk to the driver, we can look at road supervision, and that helps us really stay on top of that. Because to me, the only thing, there's really nothing worse than someone's at the right spot at the right time, waiting for a bus, especially some of our service is, 30, 45 minutes between buses. There's nothing worse than somebody's there to get on the bus and they get passed by. Like that is totally unacceptable. So I really encourage people, again, don't take it as an excuse, but anytime that happens, if someone else tells you, hey, this bus keeps passing me by, tell them you need to call customer service and log that in the system, because then we really know what those problems are. Maybe it's a driver, maybe it's that we put the sign in the wrong spot. Like, really want people to report those.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jamie. The next hand up is Renard.
Can I be heard?
Yes, go ahead.
Ready. Just wanted to thank DDOT. I don't want to go into the details of it. I put it in the chat for following up with one of my complaints as well. And the complaint that said that the remedy that was going to be there was to educate the driver on better processes. So I'm glad it's not too punitive either, because I think maybe some reason some people don't want to complain because they fear punitive against the driver, and people make mistakes, people do things as well too, but just wanted that to be put out there, that I was able to get a control or ticket number and then follow up as well. The other thing is I'm really concerned about, I actually do not know what's going on with DDOT in terms of its operational shortfalls, because one side I've been hearing we don't have enough drivers, or we don't have enough mechanics, or we don't have enough buses, and it's really hard to be factual with the public if I'm hearing three different things about what's going on with DDOT's inability to meet its schedule. And it doesn't really match up with the increased funding that we as the community fought for DDOT earlier this year, and to tell that they don't need the extra funding. But now that we don't have enough buses or whatever the situation is, it feels like the advocacy community is being undermined, or our narrative is undermined. If we, funding is, say funding is the issue, then it's not the issue. Can we, in plain language, tell us what you're going to leave for us going into the next administration for next year? Will DDOT be put on a solid foot? And it's getting into wintertime as well, too. Do we have to wait much longer for service improvements? Like, what is actually going on? And how will you plan to leave the next mayor with DDOT on a better footing as well? Because that's not fair to the new administration that's coming in. Thank you.
Okay. Fair questions and statements. So I would say the simplest way to describe this, so we increased service in April, we increased service in June. Right before the June service increase, we had a really quick, I don't know what the right word is, but a very short period of time, we had a number of buses that had been out in the service that came across with major issues and major repairs, and that put us as many as 40 buses behind where we needed to pull out. As all of you know from being on these meetings, the pace of service changes is very slow, right? We only even touch the service 4 times a year, and so you've got to make those calculations and adjustments. You can't just say, oh, well, we're short this week, so we're just going to dial back service by a certain percentage. So we've been working around the clock, for lack of it sounds kind of cliche, but the maintenance department, operations, our administrative support, even other departments that support us, really have been not only trying to get the buses repaired, whether it's in-house. We've sent buses out to vendors more to get some more repairs happening. And for the last 3 or 4 weeks, we've gotten back to the point where we were in May, basically, where we're not quite to the pullout of the double increased schedule. But we're close. We're at less than 10% missed trips, and that's even with there was a delay. So we have 45 new buses that are coming in this year, and they started coming in back in late July. And there's a process once you get them; they've got to be inspected and stuff. So it takes 2 to 3 weeks, and a lot of that's on the bus manufacturer is part of that process on site as well. But New Flyer, who's the manufacturer, they actually paused those deliveries for almost 7 weeks, starting in the middle of August for an issue that they had production line wide, where they had to stop the process. So we've made this, gains, kind of digging back out of this hole, getting back up close to meeting pullout every day, despite the fact that we only have, I think, today we had 12 of the new 2,500 buses are on the road, which is, we had 8 of them on the road back in August. So we do see they've resumed deliveries, and so that process is starting back up again. And so we do see a path over the next 4 or 5 weeks where we should be adding more and more of those buses on the road, and those are replacing buses that are already retired, and so they're instantly adding more buses to the road. So I don't want to over promise, but internally this is something that we've been working really hard on. I can say that we've really increased the quality and the detail of how, as a department, as an agency, we're tracking and understanding every level of what's going on. So we've got some buses, bus gets in a major crash, could be 6 months before all of those parts and pieces and body work and everything and testing is back on. But even on a given day, there are somewhere between 25, 30, and 60 buses that actually come through the write-up line. That's if the bus driver goes to use it, they might flag something. Hey, the windshield wiper seems a little loose, or the mirror is loose, or there's a light that's on. And we actually turn back through, 75% of those are actually fixed and put back out and given back to the driver before, within 20 minutes. And then from there, there's some that get fixed during the same shift. And there's a ton of churn is the way that we describe it, that goes into what we're doing. So this is a long way of saying that that's why we did not increase service. We didn't increase service in September. And for January, all of these changes that you've gotten kind of a quick preview of today are us actually recutting, essentially, for in transit lingo, we're recutting the schedule and really looking at how these different routes work together. Because since COVID, we've been kind of making adjustments here and there, and we wanted to take this opportunity to kind of really to just take a look at the whole schedule altogether and make it as smooth and optimized as possible for operations. And we're still trying, we're still having class after class of drivers, but we haven't made a lot of net progress on drivers either. And so it could be, Renard, that you're hearing at different times based on different questions that we would need to increase our overall number of drivers before we could increase service a substantial amount. And obviously, our day-to-day right now of why we're not meeting our full pullout number is because we don't have enough equipment. And so those things continue to work hand in hand. I feel like I always make this visual of, you don't want to have a bunch of extra drivers, you don't want to have a bunch of extra buses, and so they do have to constantly be calibrated. And I would say, thinking about this idea, which is a really good way to think about it, is what kind of state will DDOT be in as it's handed over to the next administration? And I think that even though we've had a rough summer and a rough beginning of the fall, really we are seeing progress and have a path now that we can resume adding these new buses, where certainly by the end of the year, if not sooner, we should have the equipment that we need to pull service out every day. We'll have a kind of a tightened up deployment of a schedule for the January service change. And from there, I think we'll really have a very solid foundation to resume increasing service, in calendar year 2026. And we've got the new terminal Coolidge is going to be coming online. Our anticipation is that will come online to coincide with our April service change, which again, for riders, you won't really notice anything different, but internally there's a lot of operational things we have to do to make that transition smooth. But I think those are all things that we see that we're teeing up to make 2026 really successful as part of the next administration. So I think I've covered all of the realm of what you were asking about it. I think it's a great question, and that is how we think about things internally at DDOT, is really thinking about not only how can we get service out on the street today, but what are the things in the medium and long term to make sure that we can have a more solid foundation to be able to build on it, rather than something that can kind of keep bouncing around. So hopefully that helps. Is there any? I'll give you a time for a follow up or a rebuttal, since I covered a lot there. But is there anything else that I missed, or is that good enough for now?
Very comprehensive. Thank you. And I want to make sure others can speak.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Renard. The next hand up is a number ending in 669. Okay, we can come back to you. The next.
Hello.
Yes.
Can y'all hear me?
Yes, go ahead. I think we're having some issues there. 669. We'll come back to you. Virginia Jackson, you're next.
Yeah, here. Can you hear me?
Virginia
Hello?
Jackson.
Hello?
Hello, we were having
Hello?
some noise. We'll come back to you.
I'm here. It's just...
Go ahead.
Virginia Jackson,
Okay.
you can speak, and then we'll go back to the caller.
Okay.
Okay, I see you're unmuted. Go ahead.
Go ahead, caller, because I don't think we have Virginia Jackson either.
Yeah, I don't think so either. Okay, 669.
Yeah. This is Brother Cunningham.
Okay.
313-444-9114, 313-444-9114, 313-444-9114. And on Facebook, Not Enemy. Again, on Facebook, Not Enemy. I don't get paid for this. I advocate. I got a bunch of pizza, passed out pizza, gave people a made-up flyer, a ghetto flyer, I guess, about the meeting tonight and the Zoom information. Mr. Kramer, you texted me that you want to call after this meeting. I would like you to publicly, if you can, on this call, talk about the ride-along, 1, and also talk about the legislation, 2. And then we can, have a more robust conversation via a phone call or text. But I would like it to be public if you can.
Sure.
Also, I'm trying to find out how, even with Smart, I could donate through people's donations. I got a $100 donation today from there in Arizona. But those monies I would like to donate so folks that take paratransit could get a free ride. No $2.50 one way. As I journey around the city, there's a lot of folks that are eligible for paratransit but cannot afford the $2.50 one way at the end of the month. At the end of the month, things get tight for folks. Most of y'all work in the bubble, work in the office, don't really get out too much to touch the people. Where I'm north, south, east, west, touching the people every single day, almost every hour. And there's a lot of folks that can't afford paratransit. And since they can't afford paratransit, they take the fixed line route, which is 50 cents. I agree with Mr. Renard, and I do appreciate your assistance, Mr. Kramer. But if you could publicly respond for the legislation and our ride-along, which should be upcoming, as we had talked about before. And also at the Rosa Parks Transit Center, Carolyn Cheeks Kilpatrick, Kwami's mama, she got the money for the Rosa Parks Transit Center from the federal government. We can't forget history. We may not like him, but I believe we should have a mural of Carolyn Cheeks Kilpatrick, a mural at the Rosa Parks Transit Center, inside or outside, in honor of Carolyn Cheeks Kilpatrick. I digress, and thank you.
Okay. Yes. So the ride along, yeah, I think you're talking about Detroit ride along, because we'd also talked about the idea of doing a site visit at the transit center in Flint. I still think that that's a good idea, but requires a little bit more arrangement since it's out of town, obviously. But yeah, I'm happy to work with you. I think last time we went on Grand River, so maybe we can pick either go southwest, or I mean, really, I'm open to feedback about if there's a route you think would be a good one to take. We could do Jefferson, we could do Mac. Anyway, so yeah, I'm happy to do it. Happy to have it be a weekend, after hours, early morning, whatever makes sense. So I'll see if you have any preferences about that, and we can get it on the calendar soon. That one's pretty simple. For the legislation, just for reference, the legislation is a proposal that could allow for the ability for DDOT or the city to be able to recoup the costs of training related to drivers. It would be a tool similar to, in my view at least, similar to what DPD has used to recoup some of the training costs, which really is less about recouping the costs and more about an incentive for people who are able to benefit from the training to stick around and stay employed with the city long enough for them to really get into the swing of their career. We have had legal from the city just reviewing it. We're still waiting for that review from them to help us understand what the implications could be for the city, if we think it's something that's implementable and helpful and legal. And then from there, we have to figure out, what's the best way for that to turn into something. That's not something, I'm not a legislator. I can't go and propose a bill. So we have to then, certainly make it available or known, and see if somebody's willing to take it up. So I think that's the best response there. I know it has been a while. You've been asking about it since you shared it, and we will, with Ms. Whitfield and myself, certainly circle back, get a status, and happy to talk about more in detail with you offline as well. So those were the two items. Oh, and then similarly with the idea of being able to donate funds that could then be loaded into account. And actually there's a chat here that is a similar topic, which was prepaid or cashless options for paratransit users. Those are kind of all linked together. EcoLane is the software platform that we use for paratransit, and DeMarcus Garrett, who's the executive manager of the paratransit side, he and his staff have been doing some discussions with EcoLane to kind of learn about what those capabilities could look like. And so again, we'll continue to update the group on that, but we're still looking for more information about those capabilities and how we could turn that into a program, and how would you load the accounts, how would you access them, how would they be related to the vendors that we interact with. So I'll stop now because I realize I'm getting in the way of more callers.
Thank you. I'd want to give Ms. Virginia a chance to comment with all the confusion earlier. If you can unmute yourself and make your comment. Okay. We can come back to you. The next hand up is a phone, it looks like iPhone 310.
Good evening to all within the sound of my voice. I'm Betty A. Varner, president of DeSoto Ellsworth Black Association, and I'm on this call this evening to give kudos to Brother Cunningham. Brother Cunningham keeps me and others abreast of your meetings, what's happening at DDOT. He is always advocating for DDOT, um, bringing up solutions, not only complaining about things that could be improved, but he likes to give solutions. He's out there, he's constantly giving out bus tickets or advocating to the council for the bus rides, for donations for the bus tickets that he give away. He is right there in the in the community, hands on. And you know, y'all need to, this is just my opinion, create some type of position for him, a stipend or something to help him with his goals and missions. Because I mean, he is really serious about the work that he does for DDOT. So I said I had to take some time out of my life to speak. I know y'all know the work that he does, but I have health challenges, and a lot of times I'm just, being involved with what's going on by Zoom. And he makes sure that I am abreast of the meetings for DDOT. And so kudos to Brother Cunningham. Keep up the good work. And uh, my opinion is the DDOT has a challenge with having enough bus drivers. You're getting them trained, you're spending the money, and the bus drivers, you must have a turnover because they're going other places to work. There need to be some language so when these people are trained, they have a commitment to stay with the city of Detroit for maybe 4 or 5 years. Thank you for my time. God bless you.
Thank you, Miss Betty. Miss Virginia, I saw that you had commented in the chat, and that is a perfectly fine way to make your comment if you can't get your audio to work. We do review these after the meeting. But the next hand up is call-in user 1. Call-in user 1. Okay. We can come back to you. Ms. Rochella, you're next.
Good evening, Director Kramer and all the DDOT employees. It's Rochelle Stewart, Detroit People's Platform. I want to first thank you for that mural down there on the Rosa Parks Transit Center. It's lovely. I do want to say, Mr. Kramer, have you talked to anyone about the suggestion I gave about the officers on the bus starting off at one place, going to the next stop and staying on there for about a month and then rotating the officers after a month? The other thing, advocates been asking for years the same thing Cunningham is talking about, and nobody had ever been listening. We've been saying for years, is it a way to get paid back for the training or having them to stay on for so long so at least we get something out of them without, just losing out on training? So I hope you can get it in, but we've been asking for that for years. But I do want to know if you're going to do something about the transit officers that's on the buses, and maybe see, or have you talked to anyone about what I had suggested?
Yeah, and we don't have any, I don't have what we're going to do or a date of implementation, but we have discussed this we coordinate with DPD overall, including the transit police unit, pretty much every day. So we have had some discussions about different strategies for on the bus. We did include your comment in a discussion not that long ago, and we're continuing to evaluate how to optimize that. So I can't say whether we're doing it or not yet, but it has been part of our discussion, and I do appreciate the suggestion.
And maybe we can advocate to you, like The fire department got all new ambulances. They done got all new fire trucks. I mean, they can give some money up to DDOT where the police department gets what they need. DDOT deserves to get what they need. The residents of the city deserve to get what they need. As far as I hear, Mary Sheffield says she's gonna make sure that DDOT Reimagine get full force in her speech last night. So I hope that does happen because we put a lot of work into that DDOT Reimagine, and I do want to see it come full formation of it. But like I said, I thank you for the mural of Rosa Parks down there at Rosa Parks Transit Center, but I think we have to do something else for Miss Kilpatrick. She don't need to go. She needs to go somewhere else in the city. That's truly Rosa Parks, and I think that's the only thing that should be there. But you can do something else for Kilpatrick somewhere else, as I see fit. You know, that's the way I see it. But I thank you for listening. Everybody have a safe and blessed evening, and I yield my time.
Thank you, Ms. Rochella. We can still give call-in user 1 a chance to unmute. Otherwise, the next caller is someone on a Samsung.
Hello?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay, I'm sorry about that. Good afternoon. My name is Deontay Cunningham brought me here. And also let you guys know he got pizza. He gave out to anybody who attended the meetings. I would like to speak on I get bus tickets and sometimes they don't work and I have issues with the bus drivers. They kind of, I guess, get frustrated and they understand, I guess, to a certain extent that the machines kind of get messed up. And I see them like get frustrated and I do feel like that plays into how they interact with the customers. Also, the buses being late and I check the schedule and they're like, it used to be like maybe 5-10 minutes. Now they're like close to half an hour to hours late. The cleanliness of the bus is horrible. I don't know exactly how that's supposed to go protocol as far as cleaning the bus, but that's buses are nasty, disgusting. And I wanted to ask about if like a DDOT day, like kind of like customer appreciation day, maybe that'll help the customers and the drivers or the supervisors kind of get better acquainted and can kind of have a better relationship with each other. And that's all.
Okay, great. Thank you.
And thank you.
Michelle Morgan is the next hand up.
Good evening. Can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead with your comment.
Hi, yes. My name is Michelle Morgan. I'll make it quickly. I'm a returning resident. I lived in Philly for about 20 years. I moved back home about 3 years ago. So I am very used to East Coast public transportation. I hate driving. So I live on the Lower East Side. So my specific questions, specifically one are the 67, the Cadillac bus. There is not, I just want to know what the priority DDOT makes. So with prioritizing the bus routes, specifically the MAC bus, it runs on a hospital route and it's routinely late. It runs at 60 minutes, every 60 minutes. And one of my main concern is that people on the Lower East Side can't go east and it's becoming more problematic going west. But if I need to go from the east side to the west side, I don't really have as many issues. I'm coming from a place of love and the fact that I absolutely adore public transportation and I worked in human resources. So I completely understand regarding your issues regarding training and retention. And then also my issues were I live off of Montclair and Jefferson. So one, I've lived here, my family's lived in this particular neighborhood since the 60s. What is the issue with the Werner bus running more east? And then the issue with the Jefferson bus. So it is continuously problematic with its running in time. They typically run at the same time rate, but they're often late and then they run back to back. So what is the rules regarding the break times? And then also there's a cleanliness issue as the gentleman following up. I've noticed on the MAC bus, and specifically I'm asking because all of these routes run on hospital routes with the cleanliness. Like, what are the driver's responsibilities?
I can try addressing a couple of these. I would, if there's anyone from scheduling or planning that could speak to, I didn't quite follow the question about the Werner route going farther east. Maybe can you clarify that one? You want the one to go farther east?
No, there was an East Vernon route at one time, and
Oh, I see. Okay. You mean the routing on East Werner, not the Werner #1 route?
yeah,
Correct.
yeah.
I gotcha. Okay. Um,
And
Yeah.
if I can comment, clarify, my specific concern is that like I said, my family's been in this area for well over 50 years. So I'm moving back. I'm at the age of 48. There are people here who are in their 90s, approaching 100. You have different retirement homes. There is definitely a food desert here, and you have different, you can only get to Trader Joe's specifically, per se. And I'm just asking from a policy standpoint and even a planning standpoint, what is the priority when it comes to hospitals and access to food sources for vulnerable communities in the city of Detroit, specifically regarding DDOT and public transportation? And this is coming from someone who's come from the East Coast who heavily relied on public transportation.
Yeah. And I would, Steve or someone from planning wants to talk generally about how we consider those destinations as part of our planning process. I think maybe again you can clarify this too, but I don't know if you're asking about how do we prioritize if we're short of service, or are you talking about from the schedule design itself? Maybe that
The
would be the
schedule
last.
design, because I'm specifically concerned, because even though I thank you, and I'm gonna go with the positive. Thank you so much for making the Jefferson bus come down to Mack and Alter. So as someone who lives right between, I live on Verner, so I can take either or. I have that option. Also, I have a vehicle. Also, I'm actually physically mobile. A lot of my neighbors are not. So my concern is there is a lot of healthcare and a lot of food sourcing along that route going further east beyond like kind of downtown. And it's continuously late. It's getting colder. You have an aging population going east. What is, from a policy standpoint, the priority as far as the scheduling and planning?
I can speak to that is that we don't prioritize one route over another. The frequency on the schedule is based mainly on the demand for service along a certain street in a certain neighborhood. But when it comes to operating the service, when we don't have enough drivers, when we don't have enough buses, there's no prioritization of saying, oh, that this route goes to a hospital and this route goes to a school. All of the routes go somewhere that somebody needs them. Our goal is to provide every trip in the schedule. And that's one reason why we're actually proposing to reduce the schedule in January, because we want people to be able to depend on the bus to show up when the schedule says it's supposed to show up.
Yeah, and just I can add a little bit more to that too. Is our long-term goals and even the 2 service changes we made earlier this year are aimed at getting more and hopefully eventually all of the routes to have a higher frequency, and that is kind of always a balancing act. I hear even from people who have worked with DDOT before, ridden DDOT, or have worked at other transit agencies, is that in the past our route network was there was a lot more routes, but that's kind of the balance is that's, and we did when I was at Smart, it was the same exercise. Do you want to have fewer routes that have higher frequency, or do you want to have more routes that have lower frequency? But I think that's our goal, is we're trying to advance everything forward, but in a way so that we don't have, again, hopefully we wouldn't have any routes that have 45 or 60 minutes between buses during the heart of the day, because that's something where you really have to use a schedule and plan your whole day around when the bus is coming, rather than just say this is a way to move around when you need to. And Joel Batterman just included a link to DDOT Reimagine if you haven't viewed that before. I think that does a good job of showing kind of all those things I just talked about. And I think Steve's comments are valid. Is also more specifically is that we're all of we have DDOT has essential transit service, and so all of our routes are connecting people to important places. In the future, if we start adding more routes, I think then that's when you really get into, are we ensuring that those additions are really focusing on the most vulnerable populations and the most critical destinations. But again, those are very spread out. And my last spin on that would be, as a planner myself, we've been working really closely with the city planning department as they go through their master planning exercise, as they've been considering different zoning changes. Those are things that were part of that process, because all of those decisions, the zoning ordinance, the master planning, corridor improvements, all of those things impact how effective and convenient transit can be in the larger framework of the city. So I would say.
And what have your collaboration efforts been with like other transit agencies, like as far as best practices?
Yeah, I mean, so for Smart, I worked at Smart before I came to the city. So Smart also is essential transit, is what I call it, right? So it's very critical. There's not so much the volume of service is not so great that it's like, oh well, this is too much, we can just move it around. Like, it's really to make sure that what we have is reliable and gets to those critical destinations. So for Smart, which again is our biggest partner, it's over, I think it's about 2/3 of people who work in the city live outside of the city, and 2/3 of the jobs outside of the city are people. So by design, or not by design, in practice, the majority of people that use DDOT or Smart use both systems. Because getting to work is one of the top ways you want to go. Healthcare would be another one. Education. There's a lot of people that have to use both systems, and so a bus passenger isn't going to care whether the bus is orange or green, or who the driver is, whether they work for the city or work for Smart. And so I've only been here for 10 months, but I've really tried to make sure we can have the strongest relationship, because I mean, there's no reason that should get in the way of us having a good customer experience for people who have to use both systems. You want to make
Are
sure
the drivers part, I'm sorry to cut you off, but are the drivers part of a union?
both providers are separate locals of ATU.
And then can we give, trying not to interrupt, but I don't want one person to, I want other people to
the
be
chief
able
of
to.
safety and one of our planners have their hands up, so maybe they can contribute and
All
we
right,
can
thank
move
you
on to
so
the next
much for
topic.
your time.
Thanks for the question. Appreciate it.
Just wanted to respond to Renard and to Ms. Rochelle's comments on the DPD transit. Just to share, we are in talks with DPD to have transit as a part of their community input meetings. We're in the very early stages of that discussion, and we're working with our marketing team. And as soon as we get any feedback from that conversation, we're going to invite everybody there, because that is a greater conversation for transit and the community as well. So just wanted to address that.
And Addison, did you want to bring us back to the schedule issue before we move on?
Yeah, not so much of when it comes to routing, as Director Kramer said, it's kind of all essential routing, but we do, when it comes to placing amenities for our bus stops, so shelters or benches, anything like that, we do take into consideration hospitals, schools, senior living facilities, things like that. So they are kept in mind when we're planning for those things.
Okay, thank
Great
you.
point. Thanks, Addison.
And the next hand up is Kay.
Hi, can you guys hear me?
Yes, go ahead with your comment.
I just wanted to ask, is there anything that we can do about the routes that are like 45 to 60 minutes wait time, especially like in the mornings? I'm a young woman, and if I wake up even 2 minutes like after my schedule, I would have to stand outside and wait a whole hour. And then now I'm like, 45 minutes late for work. And, like things happen. I'm a human being. So like I try my best to be on time and do what I have to do. But sometimes I can't. And then when I'm on my way home, like certain buses will be clumped up at the terminal and no buses will connect to my bus. So now I have to wait extra time. Like they're just all off schedule. Forgive me if I'm also repeating things because I came in a couple minutes late. But I was just wondering if there was anything that could be done or if there's any planning towards, a solution for issues like that with the routes.
Steve Patrick, Service Development and Scheduling. So we do have the DDOT Reimagine plan, and we also had a service change that was ready to go for September that would have improved many of the routes to 45 minutes to 30 or 35 during peaks, and
Okay.
gone from 60 to 45 off peak. But we had to postpone that because there simply weren't enough buses and bus drivers. And so
Okay.
we'll have that service change. It went through public hearing, and we're hoping we can implement it one day. But this right now we're not in that. Right now, any service we add to the schedule is going to mean that there's other service that doesn't go out because we're simply trying to get out every bus that we can right now.
Okay, and I see I have 49 seconds remaining. So if I could just make a tiny
Ma'am,
suggestion.
Ma'am, put your name in the chat so schedule can follow up with you, Addison or somebody
Okay.
scheduling, so they can understand your individual need. Maybe there's a
Okay.
option. Okay, that would help.
Okay. Okay, I just put it in there. Just a little like suggestion. There are certain bus lines that have like 7 or 8 buses on them at once, and then there are certain ones that just have 2. Is there any way that they could possibly be like kind of moved around a bit so that those bus lines that have more, like I know Grand River comes every like 15 minutes and Greenfield is pretty decent at coming every 15 to 20-ish minutes. Is there any way for the bus lines that are a little bit less, like fortunate, for lack of better words, to have more buses on them?
Yeah, I can speak to that one a little bit. So just like with the service design Steve mentioned earlier, the frequency is also tied to demand. So the DDOT Reimagine, our plan, hope moving forward as we're able to have more buses and more drivers would be to reduce those frequencies down on all of the routes like Steve mentioned. In the meantime, we're making sure that we can have that schedule that make sure we can have the service be reliable and accurate to the schedule. Even if the schedule isn't as good as we want it to be, we want to make sure the buses show up then. But generally, that is an exercise every day. Now, even when we have all the buses available to make pullout, you could have a breakdown. You could have something on the road. We actually have we call them service inspectors or road supervisors. You've got a central dispatch center 24/7, and that's what they're doing constantly is figuring out. Okay, we had a bus that broke down. Could we take a bus? Especially if it's on a lower frequency route, we could take a bus off of 7 Mile or Grand River and send it over to help plug that gap. So that's something we're constantly kind of trying to rearrange and prioritize on the fly. But generally speaking, those routes that have higher frequencies because they have a lot higher demand and a lot higher volume. And so that's, if you start taking buses off, now you've got people that actually, you've got a crush load on the bus, people can't board on. or if you've got a lot of delays because of all the extra boarding. So it is a fine line, but I think all of us can agree as transit riders that having that frequency come, or having the headways, or the time between buses come down, is really important to make transit convenient and attractive and useful. And that's our day to day, every day, is trying to balance that and optimize the service. So what you're saying makes sense, and we are take that into account every day.
Thank you guys so much for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Marguerite, you're next.
Okay, thank you. I wonder, did Kramer and Katrina get the answer to my question on the Tuesday transit advocacy? What we had discussed on Tuesday, because I got some ideas that may help visitors to keep up with the buses that break down, and I never did get my response from the ADA coordinator of DDOT. And my question is, how are we going to be able to make sure that these platforms are clean? From ice and snow that will be coming in the next few months. So I'm done. Thank you.
Thanks, Marguerite. So two things. The first one would be Clever is the system that we use that helps us do the computer dispatching and tracking of the buses. We've been talking with them about some other features we might be able to engage with them. And the end goal of that would be the idea of a Smart and Q-Line, a peak mover. They use a separate platform on top of Clever called Swiftly that has the ability to send out rider alerts through the app, through the API. So we're still investigating that. That's where I'd like us to get to, is to have some system, whatever the software is that makes it work, where if we know that there's service delay on a certain route, if there's a railroad train that's blocking a crossing that's causing delays, if there's an accident, a police situation, if there's breakdowns, whatever it might be. If the Meyer Redford transfer thing has to be closed, it gives us that opportunity to be able to send that information real time, which, as you mentioned, will be really useful so that people can not have to, put that effort in to get to the stop. And then, if they would have just known the bus is going to be late, they could have adjusted. So we are still working on that. I know that it's possible. We just have to figure out how to get there. And then the second question or thought, which you had brought up before about the platforms being clean. So we actually have been spending quite a bit of time on those platforms this week. They're fine tuning and implementing new pavement markings. There's going to be new delineators going in. We're going to make sure I think there's one more that needs a shelter and a sign, and then the next bus screen. So we're still working through all of that. But just today, actually, we were having that conversation. General Services Department, GSD, is our partner that helps us clean up the shelters and stuff. And so we do want to make sure that we've got all of the details ironed out to make sure that those 16 platforms, that's how many platforms are going to be in place for this winter. We want to make sure that those 16 platforms can be kept clear of ice and snow and safe for people to use. So it's on our radar. We're working on it. And we want to make sure we're ready, even though we've had a nice ultra long summer and a warm fall. I'm sure one morning we're going to wake up and there's going to be ice and snow everywhere. So we do want to make sure that we're prepared, but definitely appreciate it.
Okay, one more thing.
Okay.
One more thing about the snow and the ice. Are we gonna be able to use purely the ice cream?
I'm not sure, but I'll add that to our conversation.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Last call for call-in user 1. I saw that you were able to unmute earlier. Hopefully we can hear from you now. Yay, go right ahead, please.
Thank you so much for being patient. I have a couple questions to ask. I'm noticing when you call the 933-1300, everyone that's answering is not announcing their names. When you ask them what is their name, it's almost like an attitude of you asking. Yet when you contact Smart Customer Service, they have no problem in saying, this is Tanisha, this is Patrick, this is Jade, this is Robert, etc. I think we need to get back to that. That's the first thing. I also want to know, when did it become a policy when you all are washing the transit center, you do it with just plain water and it's not did every day or every week? Seems like whenever it's going to be some game. I was really disappointed because I'm seeing men urinate, vomit, and this stuff is allowed to be all around the Rosa Parks Center, especially where the Woodward and Dexter in the transit system center has to come, and that's posing as a health issue coming in with people bodily fluids. People have been getting body lice from your fabric off of these cloth seats, and I hope that you will remove all of the cloth seats and start keeping it washed and cleaned down preferably it should be someone like it was during the pandemic, you know, spraying down the seats and disinfecting them. I'm very disappointed that it's not. The bus shelter that is on Linwood and West Grand Boulevard got damaged, I guess, by way of an accident. Must have been Sunday night, Monday morning. Police had to put caution tape all around it. So I'd like to ask Mr. Kramer, when are you going to get it replaced and maybe consider putting a metal bus shelter like they used to have before you started working with DDOT, because in areas like this, glass is not a good thing. You have people that love vandalizing, may have mental issues, yet they're not arrested, and it's causing trauma. Now, in this event, this is right up the street from Northwestern High School, so it is affecting the children. It's glass all over. And the last time that I remember asking you, when were you going to get the glass replaced, it still has not been done. Now the whole glass shelter is leaning like it may fall on top of someone, which is very dangerous. Another thing I would like to know is, when can you start increasing the hours for the Linwood? It should not be ending at 8:50 at night. Why not have it to maybe end at 11:30 p.m. or 12 p.m.? Your Linwood and your Dexter continuously skips hours, yet the Jefferson is precisely every 5 minutes, even down to your Verner, 5 to 10 minutes. This is terrible. And my last thing I want to say, I'm noticing some of your drivers are not respecting those of us who practice Islam, and it's telling us we're not allowed to wear our hijabs. And so the question has been answered, when did that become a legal policy? And why do you allow for your employees to ever tell us we cannot wear our religious attire? And why is nothing done such as termination? Because this is a violation under person's religious practice, which is protected by the federal government as well as the state of Michigan. So I wanted to bring that to you, that your grounds at the Rosa Parks Transit Center, Michigan, and Washington Boulevard, where the Verner, the Cadillac, the Gratiot would be picking up, the grounds is full of garbage, full of urine, and the address is in front of is 1055 Washington Boulevard. When you look across the street and down, you'll see the Rosa Parks. This particular bus stop is
over 3 minutes.
Excuse me.
And
excuse
that
me.
is we're gonna let's please give the opportunity
you're being rude and you're being real.
Ma'am, we do have follow-up
Please,
questions. I do
yes,
want to
please.
ask where that shelter was, first of all.
Yeah,
You said-
that's exactly what I was asking, Kristen. Because if it was at Linwood and West Grand, I personally would
have
there. Yeah.
Yeah, there's actually 3 in a row that are over by Northwestern that appear to be maybe all the same vehicle or people that damage them. So, yes.
I'm trying to give you the address so that you can have the correct address for both shelters, if I may, without any interruption, because you didn't do this with everyone else, and I have everything on recording. You allowed everyone to speak and tell you what they needed, and I counted the time. It's been over 3 minutes. So I'm trying to give you this.
Go ahead, ma'am. You've had over 3 minutes, but you may proceed.
Give us the addresses.
You're being real ghetto and rude. You need to stay in your place.
Ma'am, you can give us the addresses, but it's not appropriate for you to be talking to people like that. So if you want to give us the addresses,
No,
that's
but
fine.
I think it's inappropriate how you allow this woman every single time, Mr. Kramer, to be very disrespectful. She doesn't do it to no one else. She does it every single time. I think that's very disrespectful. I think it's disrespectful when you look me in my
Do we want to try to answer the questions?
Kristen, I did go to Linwood and West Grand, and Billy from Mrs. Schofield's team did go out and we cleaned up the glass. It was an issue where it appears that the police had roped it off. So I think that was one of the locations she was referencing.
Yes.
I do also want to say that if you use the Improved Detroit app, there is an option to report shelter issues. So something like that, please report it. I do know for a fact that comes to us for us to parse and resolve.
Well, I just wanted to make sure that it's clear that our team is very responsive to these types of issues when it comes to safety and security. So
absolutely,
I want to clear that up.
Yes, and Good Flag improved Detroit app is a good way. We also have had photos already sent on this. That's part of how we were on the case. And I guess maybe for the record, we really, that's the rules up front. Got to be respectful to each other and certainly to our staff. And I think we're very generous with the time frame, and so that's not acceptable. So I guess just to her comments, I'm going to look into any complaints we have about our drivers telling people they can't wear a hijab. Not aware of any of those. That would be a problem. We are in the process of replacing most of the cloth seats. We got Councilmember Durhal sponsored some extra money. And so in December, January, and February, that's one model year apiece, we'll be replacing all the cloth seats with plastic. There will be, I believe, the 14 and 1500s will still have cloth seats. We used the funding to do as many as we could, but the majority of the fleet, including all the new buses, have already been having the plastic seats as well. That covers, yeah, we're already aware of the shelters. We had that damaged quickly. We're working with our partners. Each shelter has a little bit different partnership as far as who maintains it, who tracks it, but we do work to make sure they're secured as quickly as possible. And then the one other shelter that's been damaged quite a few times is on our replacement list to have a brand new shelter placed there as well. So,
and Mr. Kramer, to update you too on one of her complaints with the religious issue, we did have a complaint, and I can tell you operations, we pulled the video, it was readily identified, and operations did take care of that matter. So I think that's what she was referring to.
okay. Yeah, because that's certainly not our policy or acceptable to refuse somebody for wearing religious garb. Okay.
Jenny, did you have anything to add to this?
Yeah, I raised my hand, but of course Corey jumped in. So I just wanted to make sure that I actually addressed, yes, one of the concerns that were brought up. Actually, most of the concerns that were previously brought up by the caller have already been addressed in writing. And we've already made sure that we also sent that correspondence to City Council, as well as to our executive team. But I do want to reiterate for everybody on the call, DDOT does not approve of any type of discrimination. So to the point that Corey, our chief safety officer, made, the minute that we were notified of the incident, we requested that the safety team review the footage. And we made sure that we had a conversation with operations and vehicle maintenance and across the board. We use it as a learning tool, not only just for the driver, but for the entire department, to make sure that we are being fair and inclusive across the board. So I think that's really important to state. And I want to reiterate again to everyone on this call and to anybody that you come across that is utilizing our transit. If you have concerns or issues, we have put the customer service number in our chat. And we will do it again. We will make sure that we're sending out information to you if we have your email addresses as well. We want you guys to let us know when there are complaints, concerns, or issues, and document them properly so that we can correctly route them to the appropriate individuals. If it's something that we need to get over to DPD, we're able to do that quickly when we utilize our customer service. If it's something that dispatch needs, operations, vehicle maintenance, the executive team, when it goes to our customer service, we're able to track it, escalate it, and do follow-ups. And it also helps us with data and training so that we can be better. So I really appreciate everybody on the call, and I just wanted to make sure that we acknowledge that. And we also are working on all of the shelter locations that were mentioned today. We have an entire team that handles those.
Mr. Kramer, we don't have any more hands up, so if you want to say any last words to send us off.
Sure. Thanks again, everyone, for taking this time, spending almost an hour and a half with us, giving us this feedback. And as Jenny mentioned, Corey mentioned, you heard from Steve, Addison, Kristen, Ivami, maybe others in the chat as well. So, we're all here with the reason why we're a part of transit is we really believe in the impact that it makes, and we know how important our jobs are every day. So we appreciate the feedback. And in addition to, I think Jenny and Kristen both mentioned different ways that you can give us that feedback and report things. That is also why we have these monthly community meetings. This is not something that's required by the FTA or whatever. This is just another way for us to solicit feedback and input. So do really appreciate that and your support and your persistence, and know that we're here to get the best service out there that we can. And with that, hope everyone has a great night.